What fighter struck fear in Allied bomber crews over Europe? The Focke-Wulf Fw-190 radically shifted the air war after its 1941 debut. This powerful radial engine design outclassed many Allied planes. With superior performance, armament, and high-altitude abilities, the Fw-190 renewed the Luftwaffe's assault on bomber formations. From the battles of Dieppe to the defense of Germany, this fighter exacted a terrifying toll. This is the story of how this remarkable aircraft changed the tide of the air war. As World War II raged in 1941, German aircraft designers realized they needed a superior fighter plane to decisively defeat the formidable Soviet fighters and bombers appearing over the Eastern Front. The answer came in the form of the Focke-Wulf Fw-190, a tough radial-engineered brute dubbed the Butcher Bird by Allied pilots. Engineer Kurt Tank led the Fw-190's development at the Focke-Wulf facilities in Bremen. His team prioritized a rugged yet lightweight airframe with excellent maneuverability at low to medium altitudes. They chose an air-cooled BMW radial engine for its reliability and packaged it in the fighter's stout broad-chord wings. Prototypes started flight testing in mid-1939, exhibiting impressive speed and roll rate beyond the Bf-109 standard. Over the next 2 years, the Fw-190 underwent intensive refinements, improving its handling, firepower, and survivability. Once equipped with a battery of cannon and machine guns, it was ready to cause havoc. The Luftwaffe immediately recognized the Fw-190's potential upon its introduction in 1941. Its higher top speed, acceleration, and powerful armament gave it a significant edge over the British Spitfire V at lower altitudes. Most importantly, this new might would bolster dwindling fighter forces on the Eastern Front. When the Fw-190s first deployed in September 1941, they were a rude awakening for the overmatched Soviets. The Luftwaffe's elite fighter wings quickly exploited its superiorities over the Russia's Yak-1, Log-3, and MiG-3 series planes. German pilots reveled in the Fw-190's ability to outrun and outshoot anything the Red Air Force had in the Ukrainian skies. Within months, Fw-190s were spearheading strikes on Moscow and locking in air superiority across vast stretches of the east. Soviet leader Stalin desperately ordered new tactics and warnings about the fearsome Butcher Bird. Ground crews painted frightening shark mouths on the fighters' noses to intimidate Russian pilots. Despite claiming a staggering 10,000 kills on the Eastern Front by early 1944, the Fw-190 ultimately failed to turn the tide for Germany. Newer Soviet fighters like the Yak-9 gradually eroded its advantage through improved tactics and sheer numbers. Even so, Luftwaffe aces revered the Fw-190 until the end. Across other fronts, from North Africa to the defense of the Reich, the Fw-190 saw widespread service as a rugged, potent ground attack fighter bomber. Armed with bombs and rockets, it battered Allied ground units in Sicily and Normandy. As the air war turned against Germany, packs of Fw-190s tried desperately to stop the massive bombing raids. Production of Fw-190 variants and subtypes peaked in 1944, with over 900 per month rolling off assembly lines, though rapidly retiring from frontline service by 1945. The last Fw-190s continued their swan song over Berlin as the Reich collapsed. To the very end, the Fw-190 remained fiercely respected as one of Germany's most iconic Luftwaffe fighters. When the Fw-190 first arrived in 1941, Allied pilots were staggered by the fighter's incredible performance. Test models recorded maximum speeds of up to 408 miles per hour at lower altitudes, far outrunning the contemporary Spitfire Mk5's capabilities below 15,000 feet. Its radial BMW 801 engine supplied immense low-altitude power and improved acceleration over inline engines. This made the Fw-190 incredibly agile during turn fights and the frightening weapon for dive bombing attacks. Thanks to the annular radiators in the wing roots, the rugged engine could withstand damage that would cripple a liquid-cooled fighter. What truly set the FW-190 apart, though, was its heavy punch of weaponry and pilot visibility. Variants standardized a fearsome battery of 2x 20mm cannons supplemented by 2x 13mm or 7.92mm machine guns, all concentrated in these sturdy wings. When working in concert with the excellent Revi C-12D gun sight, it gave German pilots devastating firepower. FW-190 pilots also benefited from the plane's exemplary field of view. The spacious bulged canopy and relatively low wing offered nearly panoramic visibility to spot and engage enemy planes from any angle. This advantage was crucial during the intense aerial melees over the Eastern Front and against American bomber formations. Even as faster jet fighters emerged in 1945, some frontline FW-190 units continued being effective through sheer brute force. The more heavily armed FW-190A models could unleash volleys of cannon fire, ripping apart bomber formations from below or behind. In simpler terms, the plane remained a deadly punch fighter to the bitter end. Unsurprisingly, the FW-190's lethal combination of power, agility, and firepower bred some of Luftwaffe's most legendary aces throughout World War II. The elite Sturmbach fighter wings fielding FW-190s became synonymous with proven aerial superiority and intimidating skills. One of the first aces defined by the FW-190 was Walter Nowotny, an Austrian-born pilot. Flying primarily over the Eastern Front, his signature victories often followed daring solo attacks against massive Soviet bomber formations. Nowotny ended the war as one of the highest-scoring aces, with 258 confirmed victories, mainly achieved in the FW-190. Another legend cemented by the FW-190 was the gritty, one-eyed Bavarian ace Josef "Pips" Priller. His elite JG-26 fighter wing scored over 400 FW-190 kills in fierce dogfights against the Red Air Force. As the FW-190s moved west, Priller kept racking up victories against the Americans until being shot down and captured in 1944. The FW-190 enabled many average pilots to achieve an A status through its destructive combination of heavy armament, agility, and rugged construction. Regardless of individual scores, those pilots who mastered and embraced the FW-190's unique strengths and weaknesses found themselves catapulted to notoriety. Within the small but elite fraternity of Luftwaffe fighter aces, prematurely bonding with the legendary FW-190s guaranteed a special place in aviation history. The Focke-Wulf Fw-190 Butcher Bird proved itself one of the most fearsome piston-engine fighters of World War II, from the bitter aerial battles over Russia's vast Eastern Front to the desperate defense of Germany against the Allied bombing campaigns. This radial-engineered brute won the grudging respect of Allied and Soviet pilots alike. While it ultimately failed to turn the tide of the war for the Luftwaffe, the FW-190's legacy stands apart as one of the most innovative aircraft designs to emerge under wartime pressures. It ushered in an iconic vision of a rugged, heavily armed punch fighter designed to secure air superiority through brute force and high-altitude performance. Even today, the FW-190's distinctive silhouette is easily recognized by warbird enthusiasts and historians. A handful of restored examples remain airworthy, taking to the skies at air shows and serving as living tributes to the indomitable German fighter. Scale models and museum exhibits ensure the FW-190's unique story is never forgotten. The Focke-Wulf Fw-190 will be engraven in aviation history for all to see. It proved to be one of the strongest and most advanced piston engine designs of all time. Its power, durability, and performance enabled it to fight against the best Allied fighters and bombers with deadly effect. From the air battles that ended in the infamous raid on Dieppe to the historic defense of German skies before D-Day, the Butcher Bird's impact and legacy are ever present. Despite the jet age beginning, the FW-190 remained a formidable enemy that demanded respect from the Allies until the war's end in Europe. Although it was already obsolete by 1945 standards, this technical wonder has thrilled aviation enthusiasts for decades. The FW-190, a paradigm of piston engine design and a peak of aerial combat in its era, was one of the most advanced fighters of its time.